Everyone wants to succeed, but no one warns you about the silent cost. You chase the dream, the title, the applause. You sacrifice sleep, relationships, even your own needs. And then one day you look in the mirror and realize you don't recognize the person staring back. This is the quiet crisis Carl Jung spoke of, not the failure to succeed, but the failure to remain whole while succeeding. Jung believed that if success comes at the expense of the self, then it's not success at all, it's a form of spiritual death. Our world worships productivity, but Jung warned that a life driven only by achievement becomes hollow. Deep within us, there's a voice, Jung called it the self, that seeks balance, meaning, and authenticity. But as we climb the ladder, that voice is often drowned out by expectations. We wear masks, play roles, and slowly detach from our inner truth. And yet, there's a better way. Jung didn't reject ambition, he redefined it. He believed that true success is not external validation, but internal integration, the union of our desires with our deeper nature. When we ignore this inner calling, we become fragmented. We burn out. We break down. But when we listen, we begin to align our actions with our soul's direction. Success then becomes an expression of who we truly are, not a performance to impress others. The path is not easy. It requires self-inquiry, courage, and the willingness to walk away from what no longer serves us, even if it looks like success on the outside. But it is the only path that leads to fulfillment. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That is the real success, to rise in the world without falling out of alignment with your soul. In this journey, you will learn how to succeed not by abandoning yourself, but by reclaiming yourself. Because if you lose who you are, no amount of success will ever fill that emptiness. But if you hold on to your essence, you can walk through fire and still remain whole. This is not just a strategy. It is a philosophy. It is a way of being. It is how you succeed in life without losing yourself. From the moment you step into the world, you begin to shape yourself to fit into it. You learn what gets rewarded and what gets rejected. You adapt, compromise, and before long, you're no longer expressing who you are. You're performing who they want you to be. Jung called this performance the persona, the social mask we wear to navigate the world. It's not inherently bad. It helps us function. But when we confuse the mask for our identity, we begin to lose touch with the deeper self hidden beneath. You go to work, you smile, you nod, you impress. But inside, there's a quiet ache, a feeling that something's missing. You've succeeded at being acceptable, but you failed at being authentic. Jung warned that over-identifying with the persona leads to alienation from the self. The danger isn't in wearing the mask, it's in forgetting that it's a mask. You start chasing goals that aren't yours, fulfilling dreams that don't belong to you, and living a life scripted by someone else. You become successful in the eyes of the world, but a stranger to yourself. And that disconnect begins to take a toll. You feel drained, anxious, even resentful. You wonder why you're not happy, even though you've made it. That's because you haven't truly made it. You've only mastered the art of adaptation. Real success, Jung taught, begins when we start to peel back the persona and confront the raw, unfiltered truth of who we really are. It's a painful process because the mask has become comfortable. But comfort is not the same as wholeness. To reclaim yourself, you must begin to observe the mask. When do you perform? When do you shrink? When do you pretend? Start paying attention. Because in those moments, your soul is sending a signal. It's reminding you that the life you're living might be too small for the truth of who you are. And when you listen to that signal, you begin the journey back, not to who you were expected to be, but to who you've always been. Success without authenticity is empty. But when you drop the mask, even failure becomes sacred. That's when the real you starts to rise. Not the polished version, but the powerful one. The one who was never meant to fit in, but to stand out. Let that self lead. Only then will success feel like home. There's a battle taking place inside you, though you may not see it. It's not loud. It doesn't shout, but it shapes everything. Your choices, your fears, your ambitions. It's the silent war between your ego and your true self. Jung believed that the ego is necessary. It gives you structure, identity, and the ability to act in the world. But left unchecked, the ego becomes a tyrant, obsessed with control, appearances, and validation. It starts to build walls around you, whispering lies like, "You must always win. You must never fail. You are what others think of you." These whispers become commandments, and before you know it, your life is no longer about meaning. It's about maintaining an illusion. You chase titles, accumulate achievements, and construct a persona so bulletproof that no one, not even you, can see through it. But underneath the armor, your true self is suffocating. The self in Jungian terms is the totality of who you are, the conscious and unconscious, the light and the shadow, the possible and the unknown. It's not concerned with applause. It seeks growth, wholeness, truth. But the ego fears the self because the self demands surrender. It calls you to face your wounds, your insecurities, your contradictions. And the ego, which thrives on certainty and control, sees that as a threat. So it resists, it distracts, it rationalizes, it convinces you that success means never showing weakness. But Jung taught that the path to true fulfillment requires inner integration. You cannot succeed in life without losing yourself if you are only loyal to the ego. Because the ego wants safety, but the self wants transformation. The ego wants comfort, but the self wants depth. The ego wants victory, but the self wants meaning. And if you never stop to ask which one is leading your life, you might win the world and still lose your soul. The journey of individuation, the process of becoming whole, begins when you stop serving the ego and start listening to the self. That means confronting your fears, owning your darkness, and choosing authenticity over image. It's not an easy path, but it's the only one that leads to a success that feels like truth, not just to the world, but to you. Because real success isn't about becoming someone, it's about becoming yourself. From childhood, we learn to adapt. A glance from a parent, a word from a teacher, a laugh from a friend. These moments teach us what's acceptable and what isn't. Slowly, we begin to wear masks. Jung called these masks the persona, the social face we present to the world. It helps us function in society. We wear different masks for different roles: the obedient child, the competent professional, the charming friend. At first, these masks seem helpful. They allow us to fit in, to be liked, to survive. But over time, we begin to mistake the mask for the self. We forget where the performance ends and the real person begins. And in trying so hard to be what others expect, we lose touch with what we truly are. This is the danger Jung warned us about, becoming so identified with the persona that we abandon the soul behind it. Success, then, becomes a game of impressions. We learn the rules. We speak the right language. We hide our doubts. We hustle for approval. But with each smile that isn't real, each truth we bury, each feeling we deny, we trade authenticity for acceptance. And the cost of that bargain is devastating. We may climb the ladder, gain recognition, even feel admired. But inside, we're haunted by a quiet emptiness. Because no amount of external success can fulfill a self that's been silenced. The persona may win applause, but it cannot love, dream, or grow. It's a costume, useful, but lifeless. Jung believed that real growth begins when we question the persona, when we ask, who am I when no one's watching? What do I want? Not because it's impressive, but because it's true. Shedding the mask is frightening. It means risking rejection, disappointment, even failure. But without that risk, there can be no real self. You cannot succeed in life without losing yourself if you are always performing. The world may praise your mask, but your soul longs for something deeper, to be seen, to be known, to be whole. And that wholeness begins with the courage to take off the mask and stand as you are. Vulnerable, yes. Imperfect? Absolutely. But real. Because success built on truth is the only success that won't cost you your identity. There comes a moment in every ambitious life where a deep tension begins to stir, an invisible war between the outer world we chase and the inner world we ignore. On the surface, everything might seem fine. The job is stable, the reputation intact, the goals in motion. But inside, something feels misaligned, as if two opposing forces are pulling you apart. Jung saw this clearly. He understood that the path to wholeness requires navigating the conflict between who the world wants us to be and who we truly are. The outer world demands conformity. It rewards efficiency, likability, status, image. But the inner world speaks a different language. It whispers about meaning, authenticity, depth, and connection. And when these two worlds clash, the result is often anxiety, depression, confusion, or burnout. Not because we're weak, but because we're divided. Many people try to silence the inner voice. They distract themselves with work, social media, consumerism, or even spiritual bypassing, trying to look enlightened without doing the difficult inner work. But the soul cannot be fooled. Its voice may be quiet, but it is persistent. It surfaces in the sleepless nights, in the dull ache of unfulfilling success, in the gnawing sense that something essential is being lost. To succeed without losing yourself, you must make peace between the inner and outer worlds. This doesn't mean rejecting ambition or achievement. It means making sure those pursuits are aligned with your inner truth. Ask yourself, is the life I'm building one I actually want to live? Or am I chasing someone else's dream, someone else's definition of success? Jung believed in integration, not choosing one world over the other, but bringing them into dialogue. The ego must not dominate the self, it must serve it. True success is found not in suppressing the inner world, but in harmonizing it with the outer. It means bringing your values into your work, your honesty into your relationships, your essence into your goals. It's not the easiest path. It may require tough choices, uncomfortable changes, or walking away from illusions. But it is the only path that leads to a success that nourishes rather than drains. Because in the end, if the outer world applauds but your inner world is in ruin, the cost is too high and the victory hollow. Every person who walks through life wears a mask, sometimes many. These masks aren't inherently bad. They help us function, navigate society, protect ourselves from vulnerability. Jung called these masks the persona, the part of us that adapts to the world's expectations. At work, we might wear the mask of competence. In relationships, the mask of charm or control. In public, the mask of confidence, especially early in life when survival depends on fitting in. But problems begin when we forget that the mask is not the self. When we wear it for too long, too tightly, we begin to confuse it with who we are. And slowly, invisibly, the authentic self is buried. We start to believe we are the success story, the likable one, the always happy achiever. We push aside the parts of ourselves that don't fit the image, our doubts, our pain, our desires that don't align with what others expect. This is how we begin to lose ourselves. Not in one dramatic moment, but through a slow erosion of truth. The danger of the persona is that it can become a prison. The more successful we are at performing it, the harder it is to drop the act. People praise the mask, they reward it, so we cling to it, even when it's suffocating us. Jung warned that unless we consciously detach from our persona, we risk mistaking a role for a soul. But there is another way. You don't have to destroy your persona. You simply have to stop identifying with it. Learn to observe the masks you wear. Ask, who am I when no one is watching? What parts of me have I exiled just to be accepted? The journey of individuation, Jung's path to becoming whole, requires reclaiming those hidden parts. It demands the courage to show up without the perfect face, to speak from the heart rather than from the script. This kind of authenticity can feel terrifying at first, especially if you've lived a life of performance. But the reward is real freedom. Because success without authenticity is hollow. But when your outer life reflects your inner truth, success becomes an extension of your being, not a mask you wear. The more you drop the mask, the more alive you feel. And in that aliveness, you rediscover yourself, not as the image you crafted, but as the truth you were always meant to live. There comes a moment in every genuine journey of growth where the path darkens, not because you've lost your way, but because you're finally facing what's been buried. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the parts of ourselves we reject, suppress, or deny. It's everything we don't want to be, everything we're ashamed of, everything we push into the corners of our mind, hoping no one, not even we, will ever look there. But Jung insisted that to become whole, we must confront the shadow. Why? Because what we resist controls us. You can spend your whole life running from your anger, your jealousy, your fear of failure, your need to control, your deep loneliness, and yet these unacknowledged forces will shape your every decision from the shadows. But the moment we face it, name it, and integrate it, the less it can harm us. In fact, it becomes a source of power. The person who succeeds in life without losing themselves is the one who dares to look inward and say, "Here is my darkness, and I own it." This doesn't mean acting out your worst impulses. It means recognizing they exist, understanding where they come from, and choosing to respond rather than react. When you do this, the shadow becomes an ally. Your suppressed rage, it can fuel righteous boundaries. Your fear, it can become vigilance. Your envy, it can reveal what your soul truly desires. The key is to stop pretending you are only light. You are both light and dark, noble and flawed, kind and selfish. And the deeper you go into your own contradictions, the more grounded you become. Jung believed that true success is not about perfection, it's about integration. The person who knows their own depths can no longer be easily manipulated, because they are not at war with themselves. They stop chasing approval because they've accepted their own complexity. They can stand still in the middle of chaos because they have already faced their own storms. And so the journey inward becomes the journey outward. As you make peace with the shadow, you unlock a deeper confidence, becoming so attached to the image they project, success, likability, competence, that they forget who they are beneath the surface. They lose touch with their inner values, their real desires, and their authentic voice. The pressure to maintain the perfect persona can feel suffocating. You might find yourself saying yes when you want to say no, hiding your doubts to seem confident, or chasing goals that aren't truly yours just to impress others. Yet, Jung warned against this loss of self. The danger isn't in having a persona, it's in identifying completely with it, allowing it to replace the true identity underneath. To succeed in life without losing yourself, you must learn to wear the persona skillfully, like a well-fitted costume, but never let it become your identity. This means developing awareness, recognizing when you are acting out of genuine self-expression and when you are performing to meet external expectations. It requires courage to strip away the mask in moments of solitude, to ask yourself hard questions. What do I really want? What fears am I hiding behind this mask? What parts of me am I ashamed to show? The goal is not to reject the persona, but to integrate it consciously. Use it as a tool to navigate social and professional life without sacrificing your core self. Jung believed that balancing the persona with the true self is a sign of psychological maturity. The successful person is not the one who never wears a mask, but the one who controls when and how to wear it and can remove it without fear or shame. This balance allows you to adapt to different environments while remaining grounded in your authenticity. It gives you flexibility and resilience. You can play the role without losing the face beneath it. This delicate dance between appearance and reality is key to long-term success. Because when you lose yourself in the persona, success feels hollow and fragile. But when you master this balance, you gain freedom. Freedom to succeed on your terms without sacrificing your soul. One of the most profound steps to succeeding in life without losing yourself is to embrace the shadow, the dark, hidden parts of your psyche that you usually deny or reject. Carl Jung called the shadow the unconscious side of your personality, the repository of impulses, fears, weaknesses, and qualities society tells you to hide. Most people avoid their shadow because it feels uncomfortable or shameful. But Jung taught that ignoring the shadow doesn't make it disappear. Instead, it grows stronger and sabotages your life from the background. If you want to succeed authentically, you must face your shadow bravely. This means acknowledging your fears, your jealousies, your anger, and your vulnerabilities instead of pushing them away. Embracing the shadow is not about becoming dark or evil, it's about becoming whole. When you accept the parts of yourself you've denied, you gain power over them instead of being controlled by unconscious drives. This process leads to self-awareness, inner strength, and emotional freedom. It also opens the door to creativity, intuition, and deeper connection with others because you're no longer pretending or hiding. Confronting the shadow requires honesty and humility. It means admitting where you've been dishonest with yourself or others, recognizing your flaws without judgment, and integrating those parts into your conscious self. It is through this integration that Jung believed individuation happens, the journey toward your true self. Failure to acknowledge your shadow leads to projection, where you see your undesirable traits in others, fueling conflict and misunderstanding. But by owning your shadow, you break this cycle and improve your relationships and decision-making. Success without losing yourself is impossible without this inner work, because only when you confront your full self, light and dark, can you stand firmly in your authenticity and power. The shadow is a source of untapped potential and wisdom, waiting to be embraced. This chapter challenges you to look inward with courage, transform your fears into strength, and discover the hidden energy that will propel you toward genuine success. The final step in succeeding in life without losing yourself, according to Carl Jung, is the journey of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming your true whole self. Individuation is not about achieving a fixed destination, but about continual growth, self-discovery, and integration of all aspects of your personality.